My name is Aurora. I'm 23 years old. But the truth is, my story didn't begin that night. It started months earlier. One evening, my parents called me into the living room. The atmosphere felt strange, like they were about to ask for something important. My father didn't hesitate. He looked straight at me and asked if I would pay off their mortgage. I had just started building my own life. I was working long hours, saving every dollar to secure my future. The amount they were asking for would wipe out everything I had worked so hard to build. I tried to explain calmly that I loved them, but I couldn't do it. That was the moment everything changed. The air in the room shifted. Their disappointment didn't look like sadness. Instead, it turned into anger. At first, it was small things, sarcastic comments during phone calls, reminders of everything they had ever done for me, subtle guilt meant to wear me down. But when I still refused, things escalated in a way I never imagined. Slowly, quietly, my parents began telling relatives a very different story about me. At first I didn't notice. Then my cousin suddenly stopped replying to my messages. An aunt spoke to me coldly on the phone. Finally, one afternoon, my grandmother called me. Her voice was shaking. "Aurora," she said carefully, "why are you refusing to pay your parents' mortgage?" I was confused. "What do you mean?" There was a long pause. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Your parents told everyone you stole your grandfather's money." My grandfather had passed away the year before. I had been the only one in the family who understood finances, so I helped organize his paperwork and estate accounts. The accusation was insane. I immediately called my parents, demanding an explanation. But they acted offended that I would even question them. My father told me I should worry less about rumors and more about fixing the damage I caused. That was the first time something inside me truly snapped. Still, I hoped the situation would resolve itself at Thanksgiving. Our family gatherings were always huge, around 30 relatives packed around long tables filled with food. I convinced myself that once everyone saw me face to face, the truth would become obvious. But when I walked into my aunt's house that evening, something felt wrong. The room grew quiet. Some relatives looked at me with pity. Others watched me with quiet judgment. I tried to ignore it and took my seat at the long table, focusing on the clinking dishes and the smell of turkey. I told myself the tension would pass. Halfway through dinner, my father suddenly pushed his chair back and stood up. The room slowly fell silent. He cleared his throat like he was about to make a toast. Instead, his eyes locked onto me. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "After she refused to pay off our mortgage," he announced, "she betrayed this family." Then he said the words I will never forget. "Our daughter stole your grandfather's money." The accusation echoed across the table like a slap. Some relatives gasped. Others stared at me in disbelief. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. My father continued speaking, doubling down on the humiliation. He claimed he had proof and that he was done protecting me. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded document. With dramatic slowness, he walked around the table and placed it directly in front of me. "This arrived today," he said loudly. "I want everyone to know the truth. Our daughter is a thief, and we have proof." The paper slid across the table toward my plate. When I opened it, I immediately saw the official seal. It was a court summons. Around me, 30 relatives watched in stunned silence, waiting for my reaction. They were probably expecting panic, tears, or desperate excuses. For a moment the room blurred. I realized my parents had planned this entire spectacle just to destroy me publicly. But something unexpected happened. I didn't panic. I didn't cry. Instead, I slowly looked up at my father, then around the table at every single person who had been told the lie about me. And then I smiled. Not the kind of smile someone gives when they're happy. The kind you give when you know a secret no one else does. Calmly, I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope I had carried with me all evening, just in case things unfolded exactly like this. I placed it gently on the table. My father's confident expression began to falter. I tapped the envelope with my finger, looked him straight in the eyes, and said quietly, "Funny. So do I." The room froze. 30 relatives stared at me, then at the envelope, then back at my father. For the first time that evening, the confidence on his face cracked. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair. But my father forced a tight smile. "Go ahead then, Laura," he said mockingly. "If you think a little envelope is going to save you, open it." His voice sounded confident, but tension crept underneath the words. I slowly broke the seal. The sound of the paper tearing echoed in the silent room. Inside were several documents. I laid them carefully across the table so everyone could see them. My aunt leaned forward first. Then my cousin. Soon half the table was craning their necks to read. My father tried to maintain his composure, but I saw the color drain from his face the moment he recognized the first page. I spoke calmly so everyone could hear. "You told everyone I stole Grandpa's money," I said. "But these are the official bank records from Grandpa's estate account." I lifted the first document slightly. They show every transfer made after his death. A murmur spread across the table. My uncle pulled the paper closer to examine it. My father stepped forward as if he wanted to grab the documents, but the attention of the entire table stopped him. "When Grandpa passed away," I continued, "I helped organize his finances because no one else wanted to deal with them. I had temporary access to the account to settle his bills and distribute the inheritance." I paused and looked directly at my father. And while doing that, I noticed something strange. My cousin frowned. "What do you mean strange?" I picked up the next page. Someone began transferring money out of the account weeks after Grandpa died. Large amounts. Quietly. The room went silent. My father suddenly laughed, but the sound felt forced. "Nice story," he said. "You expect everyone to believe that." I turned the page around so everyone could see the highlighted section. "The transfers didn't go to me," I said calmly. "They went to your account, Dad." Gasps erupted across the table. My aunt covered her mouth. My uncle stared at my father with wide eyes. My mother whispered, pale with shock, "What?" I slid another document forward. "There were 6 transfers," I explained. "Together they add up to almost the exact amount of your remaining mortgage." My father's expression twisted with anger. "That's ridiculous," he snapped. "Those records don't prove anything." I nodded slightly. "You're right. Bank records alone might not prove everything." Then I lifted the final document. "That's why I also have this." My uncle leaned closer. "What is it?" "A statement from the bank investigator who reviewed the transfers," I replied. "After I reported suspicious activity." The room erupted into whispers. My father slammed his hand onto the table. "You reported me," he shouted. I met his gaze without hesitation. "No," I said calmly. "I reported the theft from Grandpa's account." I tapped the document again. "And according to the bank investigation, the person who accessed the account using Grandpa's authorization codes was you." My father looked around the room desperately, searching for someone to defend him. No one spoke. My cousin slowly pushed his chair back. My aunt shook her head in disbelief. My grandmother, who had remained silent all evening, finally spoke in a quiet but firm voice. "Is that true?" My father opened his mouth, but no words came out. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything before it. I folded my hands calmly on the table. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," I said. "But when you started telling everyone that I stole Grandpa's money, I realized you were trying to hide what you did." I glanced at the court summons still lying in front of me. "You tried to destroy my reputation before the truth came out." My father grabbed his coat angrily. "This is nonsense," he muttered. But no one stopped him as he walked out the door. My mother hesitated for a moment, looking around at the shocked faces of our relatives, before quietly following him. The door closed behind them with a dull thud. For several seconds, no one moved. Then my uncle exhaled slowly. "Oh, Laura," he said, "why didn't you tell us sooner?" I shrugged slightly, feeling the weight finally lift from my shoulders. "Because I hoped it wouldn't come to this." My grandmother reached across the table and gently squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing," she said softly. Around the table, relatives who had avoided me all evening began speaking, apologizing, asking questions, trying to understand everything that had just happened. But for me, the most important thing was simple. The lie was gone. And the truth had finally spoken for itself. That Thanksgiving dinner was supposed to be the night my parents destroyed me. Instead, it was the night their secret was revealed.